Thoughts on how EA Sports reboot can help Miami?
It's funny. I was listening to the Cover 3 podcast, and they were talking about this in passing, but not having the college football video game has taken college football out of widespread cultural zeitgeist in the way that it used to. You know, it's like a growing sport, but it's also a niche sport. It's weird, and it was way more for those of us who are like of the college football world. You know what I mean? Like watching every game, running a website, blogging about it, doing all these, those of us who are intimately connected with it, it has not really changed for us because we're still finding new ways to bridge that gap, right? But for those people for whom it was like the video game was the portal into that world, that doesn't exist anymore. So I think that like for the sport in general and in terms of Miami, like, yeah, that can put things back on the forefront and just kind of give there's so many people, like it's funny, I was dating a girl one time and she was not at all into any kind of sports. And I was like, all right, babe, so we're gonna have to talk about this a little bit because I am. So I'm not trying, hey, I'm not putting down your hobbies or anything, but like this is a hobby that I'm intimately connected with and like, a lot. So like if me being into sports is a deal breaker, then like, yeah, and I mean, clearly it was, and whatever, fine. But for those, there's a lot of people who like don't have the connect or there's no avenue for them to connect with college football in the same way. Like you have Madden, you have all of the mobile games and things like that. I got friends who play multiple mobile games. You got, fantasy football. You have, sports betting now. You have so many different things with professional football. Now I know there is sports betting for college football, but it's not the exact same. So I think having that portal back and, and when it drops next year or next year, July, the first or second Tuesday, in 2024, that takes your summer, bro. You know what I mean? You have light schedules at work, kids are off of school, like and that will automatically have your online dynasties and things like that coming back. And obviously, I was talking with a friend of mine, he's like, yo, dynasty mode is coming back. And I'm like, that's the foundation of the game. Like without that, then you have no game. Like dynasty mode, like 100%. Road to Glory, the single player, where you develop a player and you can even port them over to Madden, that's perfectly fine and well and good. But like Dynasty is what makes that game go. So you have to have that. Brandon Howmiller, I interviewed years ago when the game was still being produced before, it got shelved and everything. But I believe he's back on as the senior producer of the project. And he's a very smart dude. I really enjoyed my interaction with him. Unfortunately, he went to Florida State, so I did have to rag him about that. But he has a good mind for the product. And like the thing that I would love and I think is great is you have to have people who know the product, right? And in a way, that's like a little bit different from Uno because the rules that official Uno says are the rules. No, you don't know your own product. That's not how the game goes. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you can write it on a piece of paper, you can put it in the packet or whatever, but like they'll come on Twitter and be like, oh, there's no stacking of the since what, bro, we've been stacking since stacking was stacking. We were stacking since forever. What are you talking about? Like a draw 2 on top of a draw 2 on top of a draw 4 on top of a draw. That's stacking. And they're like, no, you can't stack. You don't know the game. You make the game, but you don't know the game, right? I think and hope. Well, I know that at least Brandon Howmiller, I'm telling you his name because I interviewed him and I've interacted with him a couple times. I know that he knows the game, and I'm very confident that the team building the game knows the game. EA Sports, it's the game. So they should know that, right? Now, in terms of where it can help Miami is I'm not sure what other features are going to be in the game. I have no idea whatsoever. But if you have your classic teams in there, you're going to have more than a couple, right? That are going to be Miami. Boom. So you have that. You have your classic moments. More than a couple in there will be Miami. Both good, wide right, wide left, and bad. Doug Flutie, Hail Mary, right? So you're going to have that. That's going to be in there. And for your single player, the Road to Glory or whatever they're going to brand it as, Miami, well, obviously, if it's in the game, it should be open to any school. But I think that Miami will be one of the top tier schools, and because Miami is a school that's in the pipeline, the single player storyline for Madden, even, right? And it's one of, I think there's only 12 or 16 schools that are in the Madden game as part of that vertical single player mode thing. But then you're gonna have that, as well. So like getting the visibility of Miami and leaning into some of those things, the wide rights, the wide lefts, even though 1984 Doug Flutie, that went the other way. That's still a thing where it's like, oh, okay, cool, boom, that's Miami. Maybe you find a way to get in there the Boston College game. Hey, maybe they put in there the 2015 return at Duke after they tried to screw us out of that game. You know what I mean? Maybe you have all those different kind of things, and I think those are ways it can help Miami. And then also, I think it's gonna be a beautifully rendered game. And you see, there's only been a couple times that the stadium has been packed out for like a night game. I said a night game, everybody's brain went the same spot. 2017, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame back to back, right? But you can get that into the homes of everybody at the press of a button. So in those ways, I think it can help Miami. And probably more, but I'm a very passionate video gamer. That's a great question for me. Thank you so much.
The first time you uttered "it's in the game," my mind directly went to, how you can hear something mentally, it's in the game. And what brilliant marketing that is when somebody can spin a phrase, and it's usually very simple. It's often ironic, or it's a turn of a phrase, or sometimes it's just very contrite and simple, but the way it's marketed, the way it's stated, and with a little sound effect after that is obviously has become ingrained, even to somebody who doesn't no longer play video games or didn't even then in myself. Just it's in the game,
And I know that people have concerns that they're just going to reskin Madden. I don't think that's going to happen. You're going to have some of the physics engine underneath it because like it's proprietary EA Sports technology. So like, why would they build a player movement engine again when you already have one for the sport of football? But it's not just going to be Madden and we're going to put things on top. I mean, if you're like, Matt Brown used to be a college league manager with SB Nation, and now he does a newsletter called Extra Points, which you should be reading. There's a free option and a subscription option on Substack, so either or both, do that. But he's been reporting on what they've been doing in terms of the assets for the game and things like that. So, all the schools have gotten these extensive questionnaires for visuals, for audio cues, like, hey, like, is there a first down injury? Like, well, not injury, and it's, he actually has posted some of this, like the assets that he's gotten the list of from public schools. So not Miami, because Miami is a private institution, but public institutions through Freedom of Information Act. And it's like, yo, these are all of the things that were listed from like Appalachian State or, Montana or, Alabama or whomever that he's, heard back from. So it's a lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot of stuff, obviously, that you've heard and seen, but like a lot more of like the granular level stuff for those schools. And they've already been sending out the scanning crew to do 3D modeling or model renderings of each stadium and things like that. So all the way through last season, they'd already started this process last season. So there's going to be even more. But if somebody was just like, they're just going to basically do a mod to Madden and change the uniform colors, and that's going to be it. I don't believe that that's going to be true, just from everything that I've seen reported and read.